or 0721-105-105. As we were, before we even go to break, we are talking about even the ways to be able to access that information. Mangicho?
Sure. And of course, there is also a point that I think Bwana Kioko can also to even accessing some of this information and looking at the nature of the information. What can one do, especially maybe when they feel or when they think that maybe the information they've been given is not sufficient, number one, and again, maybe they also have a problem with this kind of information emanating maybe from the measures that have been taken, maybe the policies that have been given there. What is it that maybe one can do? Because there is also the perception that maybe we've got some entities which maybe can have some of this information and maybe make them public just for the sake of it. But when the audience, when the mwananchi gets this particular information, how do they get satisfied, and what can they do with the information they've gotten?
All right, so ultimately, you end up at the office of the ombudsman if you are not satisfied with the processes down here. But again, what is the process, like you had earlier asked? That process is about writing to the particular office that you think holds that information which is important to you, and according to the Act, within 21 days they should have responded to you. That's like, 3 weeks. But in case that information is very urgent, let's put it this way, it's a matter of life and death for you. Perhaps about that information is about even defending you as a person in terms of your life, then that entity should give that information within 48 hours. That is what the Act, stipulates. And again, within that, like we had said, there are certain provisions that is information that cannot be given because of certain problems. Because of certain issues. But again, if you are not satisfied, whether with the process or even with the information that you have given, of course, you can still appeal, like, writing back and saying, perhaps this is not the information that I was seeking. And let us also put it this way. This information that you can seek, according to the Act, includes even very mundane information like the salaries of these state officers. What we are saying is, whoever is listening to us today, if they have had this curiosity of wanting to know how much the governor is paid, for instance, or even how much the county secretary is paid, or even if you want to know how much the president is paid, you can actually apply. And you will get this information.
Yes. That so, and actually on that, so it is not necessarily that the entity, the office from which you are seeking the information, they don't necessarily have to find out what you want to do with that information. Theirs is to provide them.
Theirs is to provide information. In fact, the Act is very clear. It states that even the manner in which the information has been asked should not be a reason for you to be denied. Yeah, and we still go back to where we are coming from, really. Yes. As we have that history of people who are denied information, and by people being denied information, a lot of a lot of atrocities were committed, against people, against the citizens of this great country of ours. And that's where we don't want, to go back. And that's why, for instance, I gave that example of if we had a coup d'etat today, and the leaders of that coup d'etat, the captains of that coup d'etat are held by the state, we will surely know where they are. Because any person can actually just apply, and if you have not seen them for quite a while, I'm just imagining if, the kind of case that is facing this brother of ours from Coast, the captain of the Shakahola case.
The Mackenzie.
Yes, perhaps in previous days, such people could just vanish because of the nature of whatever. But today, that can't happen. You even see that they even come to court and say, "Nyinyi munatuumiza," and so on. You are denying us this and this and that. You and I know very well that in previous years, whether we were there or not, we have read history, and there are certain limitations, there are certain things that people of that nature, faced by cases of that nature, would not really enjoy. Yeah.
Then, at the beginning, we talked about you also maybe apply for information that was provided against you that you feel you're not comfortable to be erased from the systems.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
The right to be forgotten. You have a right to be forgotten.
That's very interesting.
Yes, you have a right to tell these people, take away this information. And the best example I will give at this point in time is actually information about, and it's trending. Today is today 9th?
Yes.
So today is 9th. On 1st April, we quote-unquote celebrated the global, not formal
Fool's Day
celebration of Fool's Day. You and the three of us in the media know what sometimes we do. We do goofs here and there.
Yes.
And you know what happened with respect to that famous musician from West Africa? What was done by one of the media houses. What has he applied to do? He has told them that, one, they need to erase that information they had published about him. Let's not go back to it. One, but also two, to also offer an apology. Okay, that's one. Two, there's a gentleman who, perhaps in a similar line, is also heading to court. There's a photo that has been doing rounds on WhatsApp of a certain gentleman who was photographed while lining up for food. I don't know whether you've seen that photo. He was lining up for food, and people have been making fun of him. Okay, he has actually come up and he's taking another media house in this country to court, and he has also like Google and so on. That's a complicated affair. The examples I've just given are very basic, which are available to us here. At a forum I attended a while back, we were informed that so far only one Kenyan has ever applied for the right to be forgotten, and actually they have succeeded. I will not go into naming the person, but it's a very prominent person and so on. But it was also about information which was relayed about them, generally shared, a lot of it shared online, which they were not comfortable with. Yeah. And they said it's important that you erase all this history about me. But yes, even you, if I know, for instance, we are this program might be posted on your digital platforms. If one day I just wake up and say, I don't want any digital footprint about me, I'll just say all the search engines don't have whatever anything to do with Kioko or Kivandi, and even this will be erased, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, Bwana Kioko. Now, let's also escalate this now, Bwana Kioko, to the role of the media, as far as enhancing this right to access information is concerned.
Yes.
Now, I know we've even given some comparison of, and I know most of Kenyans will agree that in the yesteryears, issues to do with maybe things like execution would happen right, left, and center. Although I think to some extent there are those who agree that at least we've been able to deal with that to some great and some large extent. But I think you're still grappling with the issue of corruption. How do you think the place of the media can contribute as far as the right to access information can actually help even to fight an ill like graft in the country?
Okay, thank you. Maybe just before we go to that question, let me give another example of how easily, because we said that Section 96 of the County Governments Act stipulates that it is important we create, we have an office which is just specifically for proactive disclosure of information. The best example to understand that is to speak at the national level. You see, we have the office of the press secretary at State House, at the president, and that's also the spokesperson of State House. Then at this other side of government, we usually have the government spokesperson. So that needs to be replicated. The spirit of the County Governments Act with respect to Section 96 is that kind of an arrangement where we actually have, at the county level then, we should have the Director of Communication in the office of the Governor and a Director of Communication. This is now public communication. And who is like a spokesperson of who? Of the government at the county level. Does that happen here? Very few county governments have implemented that section to the latter. Very few.
What, it should be like that?
Yeah, it should be like that. That is the intent of that law. But what most governors have done is they have just felt, as long as I have the Director of Communication in my office, then they usually think that they are implementing that. No, they are not. What they have, the Director of Communication at the Governor's office is merely a Secretary of Communication for the Governor. They answer to a political communications need. But we need to have another Secretary of Communication answering to the public communication need. Okay? Those are two different issues. So
needs. The former one should not necessarily be affected by the political office.
Yes. In fact, this other one is actually a permanent office. It's actually should be a permanent and pensionable office.
And what about, you're talking about the counties, eh?
Yes.
Can this be also escalated to the government corporations or maybe ministries?
Yeah, and that's why, for instance, you see now at the ministry level, all these people, because they are answering to the public communication needs of government, then one way or the other, they usually, the organogram is such that they are answerable to the government spokesperson. Okay? But the person at State House only has his team and that's it. Because their function is to communicate the president and State House. Other people are communicating government. You know, government is, you frame government and you communicate for various reasons, some of which are democracy, and also public trust and so on and so forth. So we will keep on waiting to see whether these things, will eventually happen. So
I think that is very important because I think that is where maybe also Kagi, we are having a lot of challenges even when it comes now to ensuring that what the information that you are having, they are factual, because there is now the tendency maybe if we don't have this other office that really looks at the plight and maybe at the needs, the welfare of the mwananchi, we are going to be left maybe with this other office, which in most cases would want maybe to enhance and maybe to drive the political agenda.
Almost conclude that most of the so by all means, we have governments that had the first governor run for 10 years without any interruption. I can almost be certain that if you go to certain counties, you will not find information about the previous governor.
Wow.
Yeah. Because of that.
That's very interesting.
Because of that. And that's why this office is important. You know, it's important for even organizational history. Okay? That is very, because we say that these are trustees of information. They don't keep this information for themselves. It's important that even the generations that will come, what do we say in the preamble of our constitution? That we are giving this constitution to ourselves and to our future generations. Some of the things we are doing today will be very important for the history that the future generations will want to know, and so on and so forth. But because of the political angle that we always take when we are communicating government, because of that, what usually happens then, we give it when it is very skewed. We feel like if we give full information, or if we link what we are doing to the previous administrations, then we are giving the previous administration some kind of mileage, political mileage. And especially if, for instance, that previous information is also, that previous administration is administration that is not yet done in the political run. They are still in the field. And a good example is Nakuru, for instance, where the two previous governors still have a chance to come and run, so that then they can complete their 5, because that is what the County Governments Act stipulates, that a governor can do 5 up to 10 years. Okay? And if they did the 5 years and they were ousted, they can still come back and still do
the other 5.
The other 5. And so, but now let's go back to the corruption, the role of the media in fighting corruption. And perhaps it's not just corruption, but sharing information that is critical in ensuring that citizens have the knowledge about how the country is being run, and if they take part in deliberations, then they do it with full knowledge. If you look at how our media is at the moment, the media in Kenya is, we would say, 90% or even 95% owned by the private sector, because the only public media entity we have is KBC.
Okay, correct.
Right? One of the roles of the media is to do what? To set the agenda. And that's where really the media comes in. That their role is to set the agenda for the nation by doing what? By sharing this information. Could be on corruption, could be on any other matter. It's very unfortunate that sometimes we share very critical information we have taken time to package and look for, and then, certain government officials just wake up and rubbish it as as being propaganda and so on. I'm making a reference to this recent story on fertilizer.
Sure.
And the best thing I like about that story is that we as people of Nakuru, and especially the media fraternity, have an interest in it, actually a conflict of interest, because one of the key actors in that is someone from Nakuru, and I also know that she has history with this institution and so on. So it was really very it was not really very sweet, to the point that the Minister for Agriculture just woke up and said, "This is propaganda. And we know who the producer of that program is," and so on and so forth. That was not right. And now they're actually owning up and saying, "Yeah, we have realized," and even the president is now saying that whoever made a loss out of that purchase will be compensated, and so on and so forth. The media should never be seen as an enemy to the, the processes that government is undertaking, but actually as a complement, and especially at this point, sure, when we would actually say there's some kind of, to some extent, a capture by the executive of certain key arms of government. So it's like the media has actually been left as one of the key voices, alternative voices. And it is for no reason then the media is usually referred as the fourth estate. And I think a while back we gave that history here of how we came to be referred to as the fourth estate. But we can still revisit it. That a while back, actually towards the end, we are now in the 21st century, just towards the end of the 20th century, a certain member of parliament in the UK, stood up and said, over here, that's the, like the floor of the house, we have 3 estates, because he was referring to those, just like the arms of government. So we have the 3 estates. But over there at the gallery sits the 4th estate, which is far much important than the these 3 estates. And there's also history that I think it's the 3rd president in America, was it Thomas Jefferson? He was writing to one of the statesmen there, and he said if he was given an opportunity to have a government without newspapers or newspapers without government, then he would prefer to have newspapers without government. All right? So that's how really important. So the discussion of the role of the media in giving information, of course, which then builds to democracy and so on and so forth, that discussion has been there for a very, very long time. For a very long time.
Yeah. Wow. And I know our time is far much gone. I don't know whether, Director, you have our legal terminology and profile. As we are waiting for that, maybe Kioko or something that is closing my mind regarding to the right to information is this document called the Kenya Gazette. I don't know whether we can categorize as one of the documents to be able to provide public information. Oh,
yes, that one, but over and above that, there is also MyGov, which these days now is being distributed through the Star newspaper. I think every Tuesday. Is today Tuesday? Yes. Today is Tuesday, right? Yeah, so I am on leave, so I've really forgotten the count of the days and so on. So those 2 are very important platforms of giving information about the government. Again, the Act says that sometimes when you are seeking information, there will be some amount of money or fee that you may pay. But the Act again says that fee should not be so high that again then it beats the logic of seeking information.
Yes, so, yes. We want to have something, Kioko, we call legal terminology. As we train ourselves on many legal matters, and then after that we look at the profile for today.
Very well, and there goes our legal terminology for today. Let me see whether I can get it. Informa pauperis. I hope that is how it is pronounced. Seems like it is Latin. And it means kagi in the manner of a pauper. Permission given by the court to a person to file a case without payment of the required court fees because the person cannot pay them. Informa pauperis in the manner of a pauper. This is permission given by the court to a person to file a case, if you can see it, to file a case without payment of the required court fees because the person cannot pay them. That is our legal terminology for the day.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm really scared of pronouncing this term. But Kyoko, have you seen that?
Yeah. Actually, this term is a very important one when it comes to access to justice. If we look at Article 48 of the Constitution on access to justice, and from here we even go all the way to another act called the Legal Aid Act, because it is on such grounds that even lawyers, advocates, are mandated or are obligated to give legal aid to certain persons who cannot pay legal fees.
Nice.
Not even just the charge, but no, today, if you have, and especially if you have a criminal case where you need, because in a criminal case you need representation, formal representation, okay? The state is mandated to give you an advocate. Advocates also have certain procedures and programs where they are supposed to give legal aid free of charge, of course, to paupers.
Now, we also have a session that we call the legal profile. Mangicho gives education on various legal professionals.
Exactly. And of course, we have our legal profile for today. Our focus is on Justice Msaga Mbogoli. Justice Msaga Mbogoli. So a few highlights about him is that in 1953, born in coastal Kenya, 1976, graduated with a Bachelor of Law, that is LLB, from University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Come 1978, admitted as an advocate of Kenya and went to private practice in Mombasa. Then 1987, he was appointed judge of the High Court. Justice Msaga Mbogoli in 2010, elected by the judges of the High Court to the position of a principal judge. In 2016, was the presiding judge in the Land and Environment Division. That is way back in 2016. And the same year, he was the chairman, Board of Trustees, Judicial Service Staff Pension Scheme. 2000, presided over a bench of High Court that led to the disbandment of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority. Then it was known as CASA, Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority. Then the same year, again, 2016, he was touted as a front runner in the race to succeed then Chief Justice Willie Mutunga. And in 2019, he was shortlisted for the judge of the Court of Appeal. Yes, those are some of the highlights about Justice Msaga Mbogoli.
Yes. We have only 1 minute to Mangicho, but just to mention, he has been very popular in most of the prominent cases in the country for many years. I've had him all through in some of the prominent cases in Kenya. Kyoko, have you ever heard this judge somewhere?
Oh yes. Msaga Mbogoli is a key name in the corridors of justice.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, we want to thank you for coming to us today, and we want to also thank everybody who is watching over us. But for 1 minute, Kyoko, because you are here, what kind of a short counsel would you give to public when it comes to seeking public information? 1 minute.
In the very way that the government has a responsibility on proactive disclosure of information, let us also be proactive in seeking information from government entities. And that includes attending public fora that is organized by governments. Let us not take them for granted. When you are invited for public participation, have an interest in that, because that's where the cake of the nation is being cut and so on. Yeah.
By the way, when it comes to access to information, can it be reused freely? Given freely? The one that is already accessed, now can one go ahead and reuse that information?
Of course. You know, like if perhaps, you know, let's say budget allocations have been given. I mean, that one you can just access. The information that we are talking about, which you apply, is that which is not in the public domain, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. We want to thank you for also finding time to watch or watching us today in our Legal Tuesday. And today we had Kyoko Kivandi, who is a journalist and media consultant, talking about the right to access information today. And kwa Kiswahili tunasema ni haki ya kupata habari kutoka kwa serikali. Kwa hivyo kama ungetaka kupata habari kutoka kwa serikali, uko huru kuweza kufanya hivyo. Mimi naitwa Paul Kagi na kutakia Jumanne njema.
And of course, we really appreciate your time, and we want to believe that at least you've been enlightened as far as the right to access information is concerned. We'll be here again with you tomorrow for another edition of Leadership Wednesday. Make sure you catch up with us tomorrow. My name is Mangi Chomola. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.